Greetings, everybody. Welcome to A Little Help's June Little Talk seminar. The topic today, the theme is hot topics, and hopefully there's going to be some very relevant and pertinent information presented today. We've got some great presenters on the docket. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jake Dresden. I am the Metro Denver Director for A Little Help, and Steve Kortz, my partner in crime up in Northern Colorado, is behind the scenes running the tech today. We have got three presenters today speaking about some very diverse topics, and so I suspect there are bound to be a lot of questions. And so for you attendees out there, if you're not familiar with Zoom, at the very bottom, there's a menu bar. And if you roll your cursor over your menu bar, you will see a chat function. And if you have a question for any one of our presenters, please go into the chat and type your question in, and we will address your questions probably at the end of the seminar after all three presenters have spoken. If there is a very pressing question directed to one of the presenters, we may address it at that time. And I think you will be muted during that time so we can give our full attention to our presenters. I think that's it for housekeeping for me. So we'll get started right now. And our first presenter, we're very lucky to have, is Cassie Tanner. Cassie is the Deputy Director for Public Affairs at AAA Colorado. She's a frequent presenter at seminars on all things related to driving and driving safety. And she's also the board president of West Metro Fire, which I think is a very important volunteer job. So please welcome Cassie Tanner. Cassie, take it away.
Thank you so much. Well, I am thrilled to be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can dig right in. Okay, so thank you, Jake, and for having me. As Jake said, my name is Cassie Tanner, and I have been with AAA for since about the beginning of the year, but I've actually been involved in traffic safety and driver education for quite a while in my role with West Metro Fire. It's a topic I love to talk about as a mom and as a fellow motorist. So I'm really here today to talk about some senior specific things related to driving and give some driving tips. So let's jump right in. So last year, many of us were not driving, especially seniors. You know, there was just a lot of us were staying at home due to health orders, and the roads looked a lot different. There was a lot less traffic, but unfortunately, there was a lot more traffic fatalities. Reports estimate that traffic deaths rose last year about 8% compared to 2019. And when measured just by the number of miles driven, the fatalities surged to 24%, which is the highest in almost a century. And so as we get into this post-pandemic world, we're really focused on AAA on how can we help motorists navigate the new rules of the road in this post-pandemic world where many of us are just frankly quite out of practice. But now more people are commuting, and road tripping is now right now the preferred way to vacation because some folks are still not comfortable getting on a plane, or there might be cost barriers there. So when we talk about more mature drivers, there's a few things that we want to know. We have a lot of older Americans in this country. In fact, by 2030, there will be 70 million Americans older than 65, and about 85 to 90% of those will be on the roads. Senior drivers are actually among the safest demographic of all drivers. They wear their seatbelts, they don't generally drink and drive, they travel the speed limit. And they're just the most experienced drivers on the road. And we know that experience matters. So I'm not here to talk about, seniors not driving. I'm here to talk about how do we all make sure that we're driving safely. Because one of the things that is unfortunate is seniors are much more likely to be injured or killed in a crash due to age-related fragility. In fact, after teenagers, which is the highest rate, seniors have the second highest crash death rate per mile driven. So how do we stay road ready? The natural consequences of aging affect our driving ability. And while I'm not there yet, I'm going to be, and we all are. We cannot stop the effects of aging. It's completely natural, but there are some things that we can do to mitigate those natural consequences and stay ready to be on the roads. So a few tips for this is don't skip the eye doctor and make sure you keep your eyeglass prescription up to date. It's really easy, especially after last year where many people were avoiding going to the eye doctor or going to the dentist because you had to have someone right there in your face. If you haven't been to the eye doctor, it's time to get back in that chair, get your prescription up to date, and make sure that your eye health is really taken care of, because that is one of the primary driving factors for being safe on the roads. Another thing that is not talked about as frequently is the importance of exercising and stretching regularly. The recommendation for this is about 2.5 to 5 hours per week so that you can remain alert and be able to perform those essential driving functions like braking, steering, parking, looking to the side and the rear and over your shoulder, and then sitting for longer periods of time in your car, especially if you're going on a road trip, so that you can avoid those leg cramps or the sleepiness that happens in our legs sometimes. So I have a few tips for you on driving safely. Some of these are going to seem a little silly and self-explanatory and redundant, but we can all use a refresher after so much time not being on the road. So we'll jump right in. The first tip is to be farsighted while you're driving. So drivers in the city, which many of us probably are, need to be able to see at least one block ahead. And if you are out in rural Colorado or, like say you're somewhere in South Park or Eastern Colorado, you want to be able to see about a mile ahead of you or around that next hill or curve on the road. And monitor those traffic conditions so that you can take the best course of action. One of the things that we're really focused on here at AAA is the slow down and move over. And this really falls into this being farsighted while driving. So when you see emergency vehicles, whether it is a police officer or a fire truck or a tow truck operator, you want to, as soon as you see them, make your plan for moving over. And if you can't move over, which is the law, then you need to slow down to prevent risk to those other motorists on the side of the road. And keep your eyes moving, look for those potential hazards and actions of other drivers. Read and obey those road signs, which are changing. And CDOT is continually updating some of that signage, and now a lot more of it is electronic. So make sure that you're paying attention to those changes and noting them. And as we enter the summer months, there's a lot more motorcyclists, bicyclists, and pedestrians on our roads than ever before. I don't know about you, but one of the things that I enjoyed during the pandemic was I wasn't using my car a whole lot, but I was walking a heck of a lot more. And I found out I actually like it. So I do use my feet sometimes more than I use my car right now, since I'm working remotely from home. And I know there's a lot of others like me. So even when you're in your neighborhoods, you might still see an increase in pedestrians and cyclists, and just be aware of them so that we can keep them safe and avoid tragedies. Don't be distracted while you're driving. And this can come in a lot of different ways. We talk a lot about don't text and drive, don't look at your phone. But also when you are passing an accident, say that you're on the highway, you know, and everything is kind of slow on the side and you're frustrated, like, why is everyone slow? The accident's on that side. It's because everyone's actually kind of distracted and we're looking over to see what's happening. But if you're looking over there, you're not looking ahead of you, which could end up in a crash. So while you're driving, make sure that you're taking in the whole picture. You know, watch for those brake lights and be aware of cars unexpectedly slowing. When you're stopped, make sure that you can see the tires of the car in front of you. So if you can't see their back tires, you're actually probably too close. Recognize vehicles approaching at high speeds or parked vehicles that might be hazards. And then maintain that adequate space cushion. So AAA actually also runs the largest driver training for teens. And this is one of the things that we teach them that I'm not sure I was actually taught in my own driver training some 20 something years ago. But have at least 3 seconds between you and the car ahead of you and 4 seconds if you are driving over 40 miles per hour. The bigger your truck, if you're driving a larger vehicle, the longer time you need. And then add an additional second for any adverse weather conditions. So, you know, rainstorm, hailstorm, snow, when we get into those months, make sure that you're really maintaining that distance between you and the car ahead of you so that you have adequate time to respond. And then communicate your every move. When we talk about how we communicate with other motorists, you know, our turn signals are really the most important tool that we have for communication. And when you haven't driven in a little while, it can actually be really easy to not pick that habit back up. And we're seeing that a lot. So it's just an important reminder that your turn signals are really your best friend when you're out on the road, because that's how you're letting everyone around you know what your intentions are. So make sure that you're using those signals. And then when you see a red light, use your brakes to communicate that you're coming to a stop. And that can be just a little light tap on your brake so that someone knows, oh, I need to pay attention because they're going to start slowing down. AAA offers several senior-specific programs to really help support mature drivers as they continue on their motorist journey. One of these is our AAA Roadwise Driver Training Program. It's a defensive driving course where you get certified as a Roadwise driver, and you can actually turn your certificate in Colorado to your insurance agency for a discount on your car insurance. It's a really great course, receives excellent feedback from participants, and you can find that course at AAA.com. And I will also put some of these links in the chat for you. Another tool that we have is called our Driver 65 Plus brochure. And this is an incredible self-assessment tool. So if you're thinking, I wonder where I am on the scale of how I feel about my own driving ability, this brochure is a great way for you to critically examine your own driving habits and skills as you've aged to see what areas you might need to focus on. And then there's several other resources I just wanted to share with you. Seniordrivers.org has some really great information on it for more mature drivers, as well as drivesharpnow.com, and then of course AAAseniors.com. So I'm going to keep it pretty short and sweet today, but I am here if there are any questions. I'll take a look in the chat. Jake, do you want me to answer questions now, or did you want me to wait until the end?
Yeah, I was thinking since there's just a couple in there, maybe now would be a great time to address those. I think those are, can you see them?
Yes, I can.
Great.
So, you know, at AAA, we really believe that we're dedicated to keeping seniors on the road as long as possible. We know, though, that folks are outliving their ability to drive because we're just living longer. And there are some factors that just make driving unsafe when you reach a certain point in your physical abilities. And that age is different for everyone. But we have to start planning for our driving retirement the same way we plan for our financial retirement. And what that means with families is it's important to have those discussions early when someone is still driving well. Driving is an important aspect to a person's independence. And so if you wait too long to have those conversations, and when you're already worried about whether it's safe for maybe your parent or your grandparent to be driving, that conversation is going to be a lot more difficult. So just like we plan for our financial retirement or our living situation, we want to plan on and have those conversations about when is it the right time to no, I shouldn't be driving. And the Drive 65 Plus brochure is a great place to start because you can actually have the driver take that self-assessment and then have a conversation about it in a way that's positive and meaningful. And then the other question was, how do you navigate roundabouts? That's a great question because we are actually going to see a lot more of these kind of traffic mitigation tools. They are becoming more popular. So when you get to a roundabout, you want to yield. Regardless of where you are in the roundabout, you should be yielding. If someone else is in the circle, you need to wait until they've passed and then you can enter the roundabout. If no one is in, after your yield, you can go into the roundabout. Hope that makes sense. Were there any other questions?
I don't see any others in there. I actually had a question myself.
Sure, Jake.
If I could fire away and then we can wrap up. I just got back from a road trip myself with my family back from Iowa last weekend. And I was just curious if there were any pieces of equipment on the car that you think people should get checked in the summer months that would be more important to kind of look out for.
Yes, and actually that's a great question as we start doing a lot more road tripping. I know I'm about to go on a road trip and just got my car back from the shop. So there's a few things you want to check. You want to check your battery, your fluids, your wipers, and then if you have one of the newer, fancier vehicles, you want to make sure you're not getting any of these lights that are on. So making sure you're doing all that preventative maintenance, getting your oil changed, those things are all very important. But along with that, making sure that you have your emergency kits in your car, and that emergency kit should be kind of based on where you're going. So for summer months, you want to make sure that you have bottled water in your car, a flashlight, and there's actually a whole list, and I will put that graphic in the chat here as well about what you need to include in your summer emergency driving kit.
Jake, I'm going to just jump in here. Steve, the technical guy that people know at Little Help that I've got to get my face and word in somehow, some way in a presentation. And Julie Knighton, who's going to be our next presenter, she just gave me some information that I put in chat that the Aspen Club probably has. She thinks they have a driving assessment program, actually, and she put the telephone number for people to call. So I think this is great if people can do driving assessment programs because that's always a question, when do I stop driving? So I appreciate those answers, Cassie, and I will get off.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I will put my contact information and some additional resources in the chat so that they are available to you, but always love hearing from you and appreciate the opportunity to speak with y'all today.
Thanks so much, Cassie. I think
My pleasure.
tons of worthwhile information for drivers of all ages, for sure. All righty, so we're going to move on to our next presenter that Steve mentioned, and we're very blessed to have Julie Knighton here. Julie is going to be talking about tips for staying cool in the summer, which is obviously incredibly appropriate today and has been all week and probably will be continue to be important throughout the rest of the season. Julie is a nurse coach and a health education coordinator at UC Health, located up in Fort Collins. So all things nursing, she is an expert in. So I'm going to turn it over to Julie to talk about how to stay cool. And I'm very interested in some tips myself. So take it away, Julie. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I don't know that I'm expert on all things, but let's see what we've got. If I've got my PowerPoint up, that might be nice. So a little bit about myself. I have been with PVH for 21 years. I work now in the Community Health Improvement Department and do chronic disease self-management. I coordinate the Enhanced Wellness Program, which is a program of wellness support and coaching, health coaching. And I am a board certified nurse coach. So that's about me. Now, our objectives for my little presentation today are to understand the importance of staying hydrated in the heat, to identify symptoms and risks of heat exhaustion, and learn some fun tips on how to stay cool in the heat and develop a plan for safe summer fun. So sweating, well, fun outdoor activities. Now, it's kind of funny, this picture that my colleague helped picked out shows they're wearing a coat and
Julie, you're muted.
how in the world did that happen? Sorry, guys. I started my video, but then didn't unmute myself. Terrible. Okay, let's try again.
Julie, your screen isn't showing up either. Your PowerPoint.
That's funny because I did exactly what I did when we tried it.
Huh. There we are.
Now are we good?
Now you're good, yes.
Okay, I don't know how that, I did the same process. Okay, well, let's just start from the beginning. I'm Julie Knighton. I'm a nurse. I've been with PVH for 21 years. I work in the Community Health Improvement Department now. I do a lot of chronic disease self-management classes. I coordinate the Enhanced Wellness Program, which is an individualized program of wellness support. And I am a board certified nurse coach. So that's about me. And we're going to talk about summer safety tips. So one of the objectives I have for you today are to understand the importance of staying hydrated in the heat, identify symptoms and risks of heat exhaustion, discover ways to stay cool in the heat, and hopefully you'll develop a plan for safe summer fun. So what kinds of things do you like to do outdoors? Do you like hiking? Of course, this picture shows they're hiking up in the mountains. You can also hike at lower elevations where you won't need a coat, but do you like to play golf, go biking, play tennis, pickleball, anyone? Lots of fun ideas, especially in our community. So if you like to go outdoors to have your fun for summer fun, you need to know some of the things about being out in the heat. So sweating is the normal body's response to heat. In hot weather, your body cools itself mainly by sweating. The evaporation of your sweat regulates your body temperature. However, if you exercise strenuously or you overexert yourself doing other work like yard work or something in the heat, your body is less able to cool itself off. Now, this is a bigger problem in higher humidity areas. So we have a benefit in Colorado of our dry air. The low humidity does help us. But if you do find that you are overexerting in the heat, your body can develop heat cramps, which is the mildest form of a heat-related illness. The signs and symptoms of heat cramps usually include heavy sweating, fatigue, thirst, and muscle cramps. At this point, you really need prompt treatment to prevent the heat cramps from progressing to heat exhaustion. You can usually treat this by drinking fluids. Sports drinks containing electrolytes, things like Gatorade, Powerade, those can be helpful. And getting into cooler temperatures, such as an air-conditioned area or a shaded place, and resting. I've appreciated that on the news this week, when they're talking about the high temperatures that we're planning to experience, and which we are, they've mentioned things like drink more. You have to have more water when the temperatures are this high. And they've also said that, like in Denver, they're opening rec centers as a place to cool off. So you need to pay attention to how your body's doing in the heat. So there are things that can be risk factors. So infants, children younger than 4, and older adults over 65 are at higher risk of heat exhaustion. The body's ability to regulate temperature isn't fully developed in the young, and it can be reduced by illness or medications and other factors in the older adults. So that's why those two ends of the spectrum are at higher risk. Medications, you really need to read the labels that come on your medications. There are ones that can affect your body's ability to stay hydrated and respond appropriately to heat. So if you have high blood pressure medications that are diuretics or beta blockers, those can impact your ability to handle the heat. If you have summer allergies and you're taking antihistamines, this can further dehydrate you. Medications to calm you, like a tranquilizer or some antipsychotic medications, can impact your ability to handle heat. Also, illegal drugs such as cocaine and amphetamines can increase your core temperature. So also, medications can make you more sensitive to sun exposure and the risk of burning. And a lot of those, they'll have that little label that says, you know, higher risk of burning when you're taking this medication. It includes even things like antibiotics that you might not take very often, but you should definitely look at that label. Obesity, carrying excess weight, can affect your body's ability to regulate its temperature, and it can cause your body to retain more heat. Now, sudden temperature changes, we're talking about if you go from, say you live in Estes, where you're used to the temperatures being a little bit cooler, and now suddenly you go down to Phoenix, Arizona, you're not used to the heat. So you're at greater risk of a heat-related illness by traveling and not acclimating. So think of it like having to get used to higher elevations. It's the same thing, as you have to kind of get used to the higher temperatures. So if you're used to going out and playing golf in Colorado, and then you go to Arizona to play golf, you're not going to be as used to the high heat, and your body's not going to respond as easily. High heat index. Now in Colorado, we don't have a high heat index, again, because of the lower humidity. But this is something you need to be aware of if you're traveling for the summer. If you're going to travel to where there's higher humidity, don't think that the temperature equates to the same temperature in Colorado. With that humidity, it's going to create a higher heat index. And the higher heat index means it's a greater risk to you for heat stroke and heat exhaustion, because your body can't sweat as easily, or you sweat, but it doesn't evaporate, which doesn't provide the cooling. So then your body can't cool itself when the heat index is greater than 91. You need to take greater precautions. So that's one that doesn't really apply if you're staying local, but if you go to higher humidity, you need to be aware of. So symptoms of heat-related problems, really sunburn, the heat cramps that I mentioned, and then it progresses to heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So again, the sweating, heavy sweating, fatigue, thirst, muscle cramps are the first symptoms. But then after that, you can actually have issues of not sweating. So signs of heat stroke is the most severe. So this one is where you're going to have headache, nausea, rapid pulse, dizziness, and a lack of sweating. Your body no longer is sweating. So you've gone from that excessive sweating to now you're not producing any sweat. And a high body temperature and a flushed face. This is really a medical emergency, and we need to get you cooled down. So that one, you don't want to get to that point. You want to stop while you're actually still able to sweat. So tips for sun safety: drink plenty of fluids. Like I mentioned on the news, they're talking about you need more water when the temperature's higher, because you're going to be losing a lot of that through sweating. So keep up with your fluids. Apply sunscreen. So sunscreen is super important because sunburn, it's a common summertime injury, and unprotected sun can burn in as little as 15 minutes. But the sunburn also affects your body's ability to cool itself. So you need to wear sunscreen, wear a wide-brimmed hat, wear sunglasses. That's the eye protection. You need to protect your eyes. This can impact the development of things like macular degeneration and cataracts. So wear your sunglasses, apply sunscreen, wear the right clothing. If you're going to be out in the sun, consider a long sleeve shirt, but make sure it's lightweight. But that'll help protect your skin from the sun. So dressing in layers, where if it's cool in the morning, put on a couple layers that you can take off throughout the day, but wear the right clothing. Whoops, it wasn't done there. Check your medications. I already talked about that. You need to be aware of what medications you're taking and the impact on your body's ability to stay hydrated and dissipate heat. I also want to mention, never leave anyone in a parked car. It's a common cause of heat-related deaths in children. So when parked in the sun, the temperature of your car can rise 20 degrees in 10 minutes. So it's not safe to leave anybody in a parked car in hot weather. So even if the windows are cracked or the vehicle's in the shade, when your car is parked, keep it locked so that kids can't go climb in or get inside. And then follow the clock. Stay indoors at the hottest hours of the day. Basements can provide heat relief, but if you have to be outside during the hottest part of the day, make sure you take breaks. Take a break, get out of the sun. Again, stay hydrated, and try to schedule the most physical labor that you need to do during the cooler parts of the day, either early morning or evening. And then food safety. So food poisoning peaks during summer months. So be careful, especially if you're having any potlucks. It's not just COVID that's a risk. We still have risks of food safety. And then insect protection. Protect yourself and your family from insect bites by using DEET, and apply those repellents on exposed skin or clothing according to the product label. And then wear your bike helmets when you're out biking. It just breaks my heart to see people out biking and not having a helmet on. I ran into some friends the other day, and there was 2 different groups, and we all stopped and were visiting, and I was like, where's your helmets? I was like, community health nurse here, wear your helmet, please. And then I do have a tip sheet, if I can pull that one up. That's about staying cool. And hopefully you're seeing this one now. So this one, I think they can email out if they have your email addresses. Number 1, drink cold water. Keep a pitcher in the refrigerator. Keep it nice and cold. Drink plenty of water. take a cool shower. If you're feeling hot during the day, a cool shower can lower your body temperature and help you stay cool. So if you can't take a full shower, stick your feet in cold water. You can also keep a wet cloth in the freezer and take it out and put it around your neck for kind of an instant cool down. Fans help. They move the air around and that can help you feel cool. Eat frozen fruit. That's a fun one. You can clean and freeze grapes or strawberries, blueberries, watermelon, orange segments, pretty much anything you want. They also contain water, which helps keep you hydrated. So it's kind of a fun snack. You can make your own popsicles or buy popsicles. Close your curtains, follow the sun, keep the curtains closed when the sun is on the window. A do-it-yourself air conditioner, place a bucket or a pan of ice in front of a fan. So blowing the air across the ice can help spread coolness around the room. There are evaporative coolers. There's just some floor models that are basically like a box fan with a water reservoir. I already mentioned if you can't take a full shower, soak your feet in cold water. And then one of my favorite ones here is watch a winter movie. Even just watching somebody on screen suffering frostbite and they're freezing cold and they're all bundled up and you're watching this drinking a slushie or something cold, it can actually help you feel cooler. So your thoughts have an incredible impact on the body. So think cool to be cool. And that's what I have for you. Come back to here. Did we have any questions?
Thank you so much, Julie. I didn't see questions in the chat, but I know that I actually had a question myself. I can't not ask it.
Okay.
So I'm always curious too about food intake in the heat. I know everyone talks about how much in terms of liquid that's important, but I suffer migraines in the heat. And I think some of it might be related to food intake. I know people can have their appetites suppressed during that time sometime, but I don't know if you can talk a little bit about how important it is to kind of maintain and what foods are really important during the heat.
Well, I would say that it's important to keep your regular schedule of meals. Like our bodies really like to be regulated. And so if you normally eat 3 meals a day and now you're skipping meals because it's hot and you just don't feel like eating, that can cause you to have headaches because you're going to have variance in your blood sugar, and that can be one of the things that triggers migraines. As far as what to eat, I mean, it's just kind of anecdotal. I think people feel like spicy food warms the body and makes you feel hotter. So you might want to pass on some of the spicier things and eat some cooler foods, things like cucumbers or even a cucumber soup, things that are lighter, citrusy, just feel cooler. But the key thing is to maintain a fairly regular amount of intake. That's really important for our body's normal metabolic functions. So especially if you have any chronic conditions like diabetes or even hypertension, you want to monitor your salt, things like that. So
Excellent. Good to know. Good to know. It's interesting to hear that psychological effects are just as important sometimes in terms of thinking cool, to stay cool.
It is amazing, truly. Yeah. It does have an impact. And I do see there's a question about dogs. What about dogs? Definitely you want to maintain keeping water available for them and keep them cool. If you do find that your dog seems to be experiencing an issue with the heat and they're just really lethargic and they're not getting up, get them to the vet. They can give them a bolus of fluids kind of in their, just under the skin on their back. They'll look a little bit like a hunchback, but it'll get your dog feeling better in no time.
Excellent. Great advice. Thanks so much, Julie. We really appreciate it. Hopefully everyone out there got some worthwhile tips. It's so important to stay cool. I forgot to mention earlier for those attendees, we are recording. You probably see the little red button up in your left corner. So we will post the whole presentation on the website. If you missed part of it at any time, you can go back and take a look. And then our last presenter, but certainly not least, is Julia Spigarelli. Julia is joining us. She is a resident coordinator at Highland West, which is an assisted living community in Wheat Ridge. And she's going to be talking to us about a very important topic, which is setting boundaries and being empowered and learning how to say no. Very important things to learn at any age. So Julia, we're really excited to hear from you. Take it away.
Well, thank you. And thank you both to Steve and Jake for inviting me today. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm actually a resident coordinator for an independent living community in Wheat Ridge called Highland West Community. I've been in senior services for over 23 years. I was with Centura Health for over 16 years as a director of assisted living and various roles there. So I have quite a bit of experience in working with seniors. In my other life, I am mother to a 3-year-old German Shepherd who keeps me on my toes constantly. I'm also an herbalist, a aromatherapist, and a Reiki master. So that's the piece of my life that I use to relax and chill out after a hard day. So let's get into setting boundaries, when to say yes and how to say no. So most of us, obviously, that are here today are caregivers, and many people are in their life. We're caring for other people, our friends, our family, our neighbors, and so on. And who benefits from your generosity? Are you honest about your time and your needs and what you can give and what you can't give? And the other important question for you is, who takes care of you as a caregiver? I mean, I think we all hope we have a little butler or a maid at the end of the day to serve us a cocktail or a nice cup of chamomile tea. But the truth is, we are responsible for caring for ourselves. I've taken a couple of little quotes here about boundaries that I feel might be helpful. And the one is, the first one is, the only people who get upset about you setting boundaries are the ones who are benefiting from you having none. Are we scrolling to the next slide here? There we go. Great. Okay. So slide number 3. Why should we set boundaries? Well, the answer is twofold. One is to care for and protect ourselves, and the other is to establish and maintain healthy relationships. I think that many of us sometimes have been in a somewhat unhealthy relationship for so long that we don't know what healthy really looks like. Another great quote here is, personal boundaries are a direct reflection of your self-worth and values. They define your self-love and what you will and will not accept. So what does it mean to set a boundary? And that's in our next slide coming up. First and foremost, it means we are willing to let go of the outcome. We have no way of knowing what the person on the other end is going to feel like when we set a boundary and how they're going to react. And remember, setting boundaries does not mean we don't care. We cannot be everything to everyone all the time. We also can't control the actions of other people. That's in their ballpark, not ours. And you know the old airplane adage, if you want to help other people, put your mask on first. And remember that setting boundary takes practice. If you haven't done it, it's going to take a little time, but trust me, it's the right thing to do, and you should just keep practicing. So let's flip to our next slide. Here's a great question for you. Are you an enabler? Do you allow someone to continue their destructive behavior over and over again? And do you continually rescue them by saying, yes, 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 sure, I'll do that. Yeah, okay, well, I'm a little tired, but sure, I'll come over and help you do that. You just can't say no. I have another question that I would really like you to ponder for a moment. How do you feel after you visit with someone, whether it's somebody you're caring for, a family member, a friend, a neighbor? So I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was friends with a woman, and we'd see each other about once a month, maybe go to a movie, shopping, have a lunch. And I'd come home, and one time I realized, you know what? Every time I visit with her, I feel lousy when I get home. She always criticizes me about something. Hey, why did you do it that way? I can't believe you did it that way. I told you to do it the other way. Why are you wearing that same blouse? I thought you were going to give that to Goodwill. Okay, well, it's your blouse. You can do whatever you want to. As opposed to another friend I'd visit with, we'd talk for 2 or 3 hours over tea or coffee, and I'd come home and I would feel so energized and wow, what a great conversation that was. Or even if you're helping someone, you're helping Mary across the street organize her closet because she has arthritis, and she sits on a chair and she tells you funny stories, and you're organizing her clothes and her shoes, and you laugh and you have a great time, and she sends you home with chocolate chip cookies. And so even though you were working and doing something with Mary, you had a great time. So I ask you to check your relationships, check how you feel, check in with yourself, how you feel with someone after you've been with them. And are you afraid to set a boundary because you don't know what the outcome's going to be? Many people are. I don't want to take the chance. How about feeling guilty? Do you feel guilty after you've said no? Oh no, I should never have done that. Oh my gosh, I need to call her back and say, yes, I'll come over, I'll do that. Let me tell you the only way that guilty is helpful for you. If you have committed some horrible act against someone and more than likely said something that was unkind, you hang up the phone and you go, oh my gosh, I feel so terrible. I never should have said that. And you make amends. You call them up and you say, you know what? I was feeling really lousy yesterday and I took it out on you and I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Done. End of guilt. You've made amends, you've recognized it. So if you feel guilty for a legitimate reason, then you need to do something about it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about energy vampires. These are the people that steal your energy over and over again. And you start out the day with a full glass, and pretty soon you're exhausted. You have no energy. You have nothing left in your glass. Let's look at how some of these energy vampires can steal from you. One is the blamer. That was my friend. They always blame you. They criticize you for something all the time. Well, how come you did it that way? Well, that was stupid. How about the bully? From 2 to 102, you can be a bully. Age has no bearing on this scenario. Bullying is repetitive. And if you think the bully is going to stop and be a nice gal or a nice guy tomorrow, you're mistaken. Bullying can be physical, it can be non-physical, but it can be very intimidating, in your face, shaking that finger at you and getting in your space. Bullies love to target shy and insecure people, the people who have a hard time saying no. Then there's the borrower. They always want something from you. Hey, can you loan me an extra 10 bucks? Can't believe I'm short again this month. Hey, can I get a cup of flour from you? I know I borrowed sugar from you this morning and I thought I had some flour, but I'm all out. I've got to get to the store. There's the insecure energy vampire. They always need you for something. Oh, I know you took me to the store yesterday, but oh, I can't believe I forgot my Tylenol. Could you run over to Walgreens and pick me up a bottle today? Sure, okay, I'll do that for you. And then there's the drama person, the gossiper. Hello, hi Mary. Hey, have I got a story for you? Sit down. You are not going to believe what happened to our neighbors up the street. And they go on and on and on. And did you know that gossiping is a type of bullying? I saw a very interesting movie a while back, and they talked about gossip. And it was about this person who was lying out on a beautiful summer day on their little hammock, and the wind was blowing lightly, a nice breeze. They were lying on their Beautiful feather pillow, relaxing, chilling out. And they got up for a second and the pillow caught on something and it ripped. And all these feathers started poofing out of the pillow and flying everywhere. And they were grabbing, trying to reach for these feathers to get them back into the pillow. And there's no way that they could do it. And that's gossip. Once it's out there, and you can't get it back. So you need to be so careful what you say, to whom you say it, and how you say it. So let's talk about setting a boundary and protecting ourselves. Excuse me. Number one, know yourself. What are your needs? What can you give physically, spiritually, emotionally? When have you reached the end of your rope? How much time do you need to refresh yourself to fill up that glass again? What are your limitations? What can you do? What can't you do? Sure, Mr. Smith, I can continue to mow your front lawn when I mow mine. That's no problem. I know you have a hard time with your mower, but I'm sorry, I can't do the backyard for you. When you set a boundary, you should be kind and respectful. You can offer some options. You have to avoid attacking someone. You can be assertive, but not aggressive. So here's an example. Son, I'm sorry I can't loan you any more money. I'm just tapped out. Last month I had to go without my medications and I just can't do that anymore. I'm sorry. But you know what? You know I was a retired accountant, right? Why don't you come over for dinner one night and I'll sit down with you and go over your budget and your paperwork and see if we can tweak some things so you have enough money left for the end of the month. Wow, that was nice. You were kind, respectful. You didn't attack him. You offered some options and you stuck to your guns, but you weren't aggressive. Now, can you let go of the outcome? Are you able to let go of the outcome? Because you don't know how your son's going to react. Oh, Mom, okay. Hey, that's a good idea. I'd love to come over and meet with you to go over my budget. Oh, I appreciate that so much. Or, oh, you can't give me any more money? Well, thanks a lot, Mom. You have to be willing to let go of that outcome. Setting boundaries changes your relationship. There is just no doubt about it. And you have to decide what acceptable and healthy looks like for you. I want to close out by mentioning a little bit about scamming because it has become so prevalent this year with COVID and people are at home more. And people are much more clever and devious when it comes to scamming, okay? So here's just a couple of hints for you. If you get a phone call for someone asking for any information over the phone, your address, your account numbers, your bank account, your social security, your answer should be, I don't do business over the phone. Thank you. Have a nice day, and hang up. Do not engage in conversation. Someone's at your door. By the way, before you answer the door, you should be able to see who's standing there before you open it. Same thing. Hey, I know your roof is not looking in good shape. We've got some really good deals for you. The deal only lasts for today. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I'm not interested. Have a nice day, and close the door. The more you engage in conversation, the more you allow them to come into your world. Hi, Mary. This is Julia from the credit card company. How are you today? I'm fine. Well, how are you doing? It's so good to talk to you. This has been such a tough year. Have you been doing all right? Yeah, I've been doing okay. You know, I've been looking over your account number, and I just want to make sure that we have everything, in sync with each other so you don't have any problems going on with your account. And I have your account pulled up on my computer. And if you'll just verify those numbers for me, I can check it out, make sure your account is safe for you. Boom, they've got you. They've lured you in by that conversation. So once again, on the phone, thank you, I don't do business over the phone, and hang up. At the door, I'm not interested today, thank you, and shut the door. So thank you very much. That's my presentation for today. Remember that common sense isn't so common anymore. But we've been given a gift of intuition and common sense. So use it. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably not. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Julia. Stevie, you able to put me back up?
Yeah, hang on.
Excellent. Julia, that was really important information for people of all ages and stripes. And we did have one question in the chat from
Sure.
Esther, who was, you may see it there. She's curious about if you have a book recommendation about caregivers.
Well, I don't have a book, but I have a presentation. I could write a book. It would take me a couple weeks, but I'd be happy to do that. You all are welcome to email me anytime. I can put my email in the chat. Happy to answer any questions. I am a public speaker on a variety of topics for seniors and their families. And so if you ever want me to do a Zoom meeting or something with your church or local group or whatever, I'm happy to do it. So I will, let me just put something in the chat right now to, I'll put my email in there.
That would be great. Yeah, and then you and Esther can connect.
Yes, please, Esther, feel free to give me shoot me an email and we can connect by phone if you're interested as well. Yeah, there's lots of good tips for how to take care of yourself as a caregiver for sure. Very important.
Fantastic. Thanks for offering that up. Well, look at the time, 12:57 on my computer here, which means we're just about right on time. I want to offer real thanks and gratitude to all three of our presenters, to Cassie for talking about how to stay safe on the roads, to Julie for talking about how to stay cool and how important it is to stay hydrated, and Julia for setting boundaries and the importance of that in all of our daily interactions and relationships. I just have a couple housekeeping things to mention before we wrap up here. We are planning to do an extension of this theme in July and continue our Hot Topic series. And we're hoping to talk a little bit about the vaccine and have a physician from UC Health come on and kind of give us the rundown on what's going on in July. In addition to that, we're hoping to talk a little bit more about how to get out and about to public attractions, whether it be zoos or museums or concerts, and how to do that safely, because it's been a long time for a lot of us, and we're out of practice, just like all sorts of other things. In addition to that seminar, we are really excited to be planning some picnics, some in-person picnics. And if you have a calendar out or pencil or pen, write down July 28th is the date for definitely for Northern Colorado and for Denver. And please stay tuned for more information about date and time and venue. But really looking forward to seeing some people and being able to smile and shake our hands and potentially give hugs and all those great things. Share some food and drink as well. And then lastly, a little further out, but the Little Help staff is putting together some ideas about a fall celebration, a bigger celebration to really celebrate all of us, members, volunteers, staff alike, just all the work we've done throughout COVID to support each other. And so stay tuned for that as well. It looks like it's going to be in mid to late September, an evening event. So we got a lot of stuff in the works that we're planning and continuing to get our members the help that they need, and really thankful for all the volunteers for pitching in, all of our presenters today. So that's it for me. I don't know if Steve, you have any last thoughts?